Hello folks and welcome to another Premodern video. We're going to be playing in the Showdown. Last time we were in one of these events, it was, let's say things went pretty well for us. You can check out the video in the link right there. Yeah, we're going to try things out again. We're going to be playing one of my favorite decks in the format this time around. I'm really stoked about this deck. Let's dive right into it. If you've been following my content at all lately, you are very well aware of Aluren. This is one of my pet decks in the Premodern format, and I think that I have finally gotten it to a place where it's actually a pretty good deck. I like a lot about this build of the deck, particularly the mana base, which has been a pretty big struggle in previous versions of Aluren. You have so many mana requirements with the original lists, that are kind of problematic. So by fixing the mana and making it straight banned as opposed to requiring black mana, you really get to ease things out a lot with Windswept Heath and being able to fetch for forest and your singleton plains. So if you are really interested in checking out like very in-depth deck tech, I recommend you check out the previous videos that I made with this deck, which you can again find in the links right there on the screen. I'm gonna explain things really quickly. We are adding Survival of Fittest to Aluren, and there's a bunch of combos that get put together once you assemble all the pieces. The first combo is Manowar plus Spike Feeder plus Cavern Harpy. This means that you gain infinite life. Then you combine that with Wall of Roots. That means you make infinite mana. And once again, Spike Feeder makes an appearance, and you get infinite power on all of your creatures that are not these ones right here. You get to draw your entire deck thanks to Warwood Savage. You can also do kind of a similar impression with Raven Familiar. Raven Familiar plus Cavern Harpy allows you to dig really deep every 3 cards for every life point that you have, and things get very easy from there. So the main innovation is the fact that Survival allows you to win from a very low base, because with a single Survival on any creature in your deck, you can get your squee. Then from there you can start to amass actual cards. You can also pivot really well into a value game plan thanks to cards like Manowar. Just like bouncing your opponent's creature and getting some value on the way out is very strong, especially when you get to repeat this over and over again with the Cavern Harpy. So this kind of deck has worked out really well for me. It also doesn't kind of just scoop to opposing meddling mages because we have access to Swords to Plowshares, which is very nice. Doesn't scoop to Sphere of Resistance either because we have Octavia Orangutan. So the only card that we scoop to in game 1 is going to be exactly Humility, and that's why we have our Ray of Revelations and the Naturalizes in the sideboard as well. The changes that I made from my previous list is I wanted to add another copy of Spike Feeder. I was not really high on Genesis. Like, that card did not really perform super well for me. It was very rare that I was able to assemble a situation where I could actually just start looping things like that. So what I decided to do is, in order to tackle opposing aggressive decks, I wanted to just have an extra copy of Spike Feeder so I can throw away the first couple and still be able to combo off eventually. And Spike Feeder, obviously, being a combo piece, definitely incentivized me to add the third copy in the sideboard. I also added a copy of A Darker Waste instead of Gemstone Mine. Gemstone Mine sucks, and like every time I drew it, I was very unhappy with it, so I decided to switch that for a copy of A Darker Waste. And the final change is Meddling Mage for what used to be a second copy of Sanded Swarm. So we're going to be playing this deck in the Showdown, so let's hope that we get some good matchups and we get to make a deep run just like last time. And yeah, let's get ready to play some Premodern. Okay, here we go, round number 1. This hand looks pretty good. We have pretty good mana, we have a library, we have a survival, and we also have a Wall of Blossoms to make sure we don't die. So this hand kind of covers a little bit of everything. Black Vice. Okay, so we're playing, I guess, against Stasis. Play a land, say go. This matchup can't be good for us. We really need to draw a Meddling Mage kind of quickly. So let's play a library here. If this gets Dace, I don't care. I just want to like get cards out of my hand. No, okay. I guess that's happening. So the good thing is we're going to be hitting a bunch of land drops. Problem is, I do wonder whether we're going to die before we get there. So I guess we're going to take the Spike Feeder, play a land, the Aluren, sorry, then play a land and shuffle. I'm assuming the opponent's going to have the... Yeah, okay, so they do have the land drops rolled up. So this is going to be pretty much impossible to win. I'm just going to die way too quickly, I think. Oh, I did mess that up. Although I guess this is fine, because we don't have blue mana anyways. So we're going to play out a bird here. This is going to be our blue mana. But I don't think we're going to be able to empty our hand quickly enough, unfortunately. There's a Meddling Mage on top. We're going to have to hope that it doesn't get countered. Forsaken City. think that just locks it up. So I think I'm just gonna concede and just not show my opponent any information. So now we want Oromancer, we want Monk Realist, Ray of Revelation, Naturalize, the 4th Meddling Mage, Sanded Swarm, and that's it. We wanna cut these Swords to Plowshares. Feel like Octavi is fine. Probably can cut the Wall of Blossoms. We are bringing in a healthy amount of creatures, which is nice. Can probably cut a Mana War, 1 Aluren, and I guess a Library. This matchup does feel quite bad for us. This hand's strong though. Turn 1, Bird. Turn 2, we get to probably Library into 2nd Bird, playing around Daze that way. Turn 1, Vice again. We really want to try our best to find, hopefully, a Meddling Mage, quick-ish. Opponent wants to Daze this, I totally okay with that. So now our mana is very much in place, which is nice. Vice doesn't really do anything. That's a great draw. And we're just going to play that out and shuffle. So blue and white. Going to name Chain of Vapor here. And we're not going to cast the Familiar. I'd much rather just make sure that we can hang out here with Meddling Mage covering Chain of Vapor. Best draw is probably another Meddling Mage. 2nd Vice, which doesn't really do anything right here. Let's get a nice little shuffle there. I think we want to get a Forest. Could have gone a White Source in case one of my birds gets killed, but we already have the City of Brass in hand, so I'm not too worried about that. Ugh, that kind of sucks. Okay, I guess we're going to just try to play one of these birdies. Get in there, Mage. And Bird. And Discover Paradise actually kind of nice. Pick that up. And once again, this allows me to hopefully find opponent's gushing main phase. This allows us to hopefully find some more stuff down the street, hoping for naturalizes. Raven Familiar there allows me to reset the top of the deck with Library, which is pretty cool. Definitely not playing it for Echo here, of course. Naturalize is a great draw. The only better draw would be Ray of Revelation, I guess. All of these are fine, though. So let's play Undiscovered Paradise. And I guess I'm going to destroy the Stasis after my opponent pays on upkeep. Chain of Vapor pitched. I guess that we can actually just take this slow. Save up the Naturalize. Like, these Vices are not doing anything for quite a bit. So we can have my opponent continue to pitch cards. Send Aluren, which doesn't really do anything. Would have liked to have found a land there. That's okay. Send the turn back. I feel like this time around I'm gonna have to actually use my Naturalize. Reason being that next turn my opponent will start to have access to Thwart. So let's use that. There's the counterspell we suspected. So now all we have to do is draw another counterspell. Easy game. Wait, no way. Really? During your next untap step, this returns. And the untap step is skipped. That's crazy. Well, I did not know that. We learned that. I thought that this was... Maybe this was errata. I was pretty sure that that was not the wording in the actual card. So that's super interesting. Artifacts and lands enter the battlefield tap. That seems totally fine to me. We still have mana. So as long as we find an answer to the Stasis, we're kind of in okay shape. Eventually we have to find an answer, right? Alright? Once we do, we're pretty likely to put the combo together. So now it's going to be a matter of finding, ideally, Ray of Revelation. I think if we find Ray of Revelation, we're going to be good to go. Opponent's got Curse Totem in the deck. Very interesting. That's not it. But that's something that we can play so we don't take damage from devices. Library doing insane amounts of work here. The problem is eventually my opponent's gonna find a Thwart, and if that's the case, yeah, we're basically in Ray of Revelation or bust territory at this point. Probably the only card that actually allows me to win this game. If we do manage to find that card though, I'm going to like my chances. Opponent exiles Gush. Interesting. Also, I guess if my opponent has Thwart plus Daze, we still lose. Hey, look at that. Perfect. So that's literally the best possible card that we can draw there. And now we're gonna wait for upkeep. Opponent's gonna pitch their card. And we're gonna finally get our untapped step. Pitch an island, Revelation, your Stasis. Again, if their last two cards are Thwart plus Daze, we lose. But if they aren't, we may actually just win this. Wow, the last two cards were exactly Thwart plus Daze. That's kind of incredible. Can we win this now? I think we're fully locked out now because of the Root Maze. Wow, very impressive showing. And yes, this matchup looks pretty miserable. Wow, very good stuff. All right, that was a short one, but it is what it is. Well, you win some, you lose some. That's how the cookie crumbles. And this time around, we definitely lost some. The Stasis matchup felt quite miserable, and I did not ever play with this version of the deck, but with the black version, it was exactly the same way. So I'm not surprised at all that we lost that game. That match pretty handily. Sure, my opponent got very lucky in that second game. It was very, very close for us to be able to assemble something. As you can see, Ray of Revelation is definitely the best card in that kind of matchup. So that was, you know, if you wanted to beat Stasis, that's kind of what I would go for. Just try to add some extra copy of Ray of Revelation in my sideboard. But honestly, I don't think that Stasis is as widely played for me to make sure, for me to want to make that many concessions. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to like Sylvan Library. Sylvan Library actually worked out really, really well in that match. I was honestly surprised by how much closer it was than I thought it was going to be. So the fact that we had access to Meddling Mage in order to name Chain and Vapor was kind of a big deal, and we only really got locked out because my opponent had the Root Maze. Without the Root Maze, we would have just been able to continue hitting land drops thanks to Sylvan Library, every now and then be able to shuffle if we find a fetch land or not, and then eventually get to a point where we can do multiple things in the same turn. So that would be a pretty good way to exhaust our opponent's resources, which they can only really get ahead on resources if they draw Gush. I always feel like playing against Stasis is extremely, extremely interesting. And yeah, this time around, we're definitely getting the short end of the stick, but I still love this deck, and, you know, it's a bad matchup. What are you gonna do? Stuff can be done about it, again, if you really wanted to, but I don't think that I want to, and I'd rather just cover all my other angles. But still a good example of a kind of matchup where I'm happy that I have access to the fourth copy of Meddling Mage as opposed to Scented Swarm. I suspect that this is going to be similar against a deck like Blue-Eyed Dreadnought, where having access to Meddling Mage is going to be much, much better than having access to Scented Swarm. And then, of course, against other decks like, for example, you know, like Black-White Control or stuff like that, Meddling Mage it does a lot more work than a card like Scented Swarm would do, obviously. Scented Swarm is, I would say, probably better against specifically the blue-white matchup, where being able to play something exactly on turn one can be such a big deal. Alternatively, against although I'm not even sure if that's the case against the mono blue version, because the mono blue version plays like powder kegs and stuff, so I don't know. Again, I feel like it's a swap that I've been thinking about making for a while, mostly because I really want the fourth copy of Meddling Mage somewhere in the 75, and it feels like Scented Swarm was the more logical card to end up leaving. We could bring back the Scented Swarm if we wanted to, maybe cut the second copy of Sabbath's Web or cut something else, but honestly, I've been really, really happy with every single card in my sideboard, so yeah, I don't think I would want to make that change. But I don't know, I thought that it was, the deck actually functioned very well. Like the hands that we had were very, very strong. It's just we were very disadvantaged in terms of the matchup itself, right? But yeah, that's gonna be it for me today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button on the way out, and I'll see you in the next Premodern video. Long live Premodern. See ya.